Hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of the Kaizen Mind podcast. I am super excited because today I am talking to an amazing man named David Jones. He is an engineer who now has a passion to help other engineers transition into entrepreneurship and is here to share his story. So let's welcome him to the podcast. Hey, Dave, how are you?
How's it going? How are you doing today?
I am very well, thank you.
Good.
Dave, first of all, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. I'm so
Thank you
very
for having
happy.
me.
Dave, to the people around the world, tell them who you are and what you do, Dave.
My name is David Jones, the second. My dad has the same name, but he's a senior. I operate a manufacturing supply chain consultancy that's called Forward Solutions. And I met Gia about 6 or 7 weeks ago at a
Yeah,
marketing event, the Content Creation Bootcamp. Shout out to David Shands and
yeah.
Wiggins. And it was at that conference, we were sitting at the same table, that I decided that I could use that experience also to help other individuals leverage their backgrounds to become entrepreneurs. So
Wait,
that's who I am and where I am.
okay. But let's scale this back. For those who are not familiar, we both attended an event called the Content Creation Bootcamp hosted by David Shands. And that bootcamp was exactly that, about learning how to create effective content for social media for your businesses and brands. I knew that I was there to learn how to create better content for my business and my brand. You just said that you decided on a new business while you were at that event. Did I hear that correctly?
On Thursday, to be exact, Thursday morning of the event.
So wait. So why were you attending before? What was the thought process before then?
There were two reasons why I attended.
Okay.
There's the obvious reason of learning how to. I don't know how to, like, I'm the young old dude, if you will.
Hmm.
I'm just on Instagram casually before that event. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing or why I'm doing it, but I wanted to learn how to use social media as a business tool. So
Mm,
that's the business reason why I was there. But then
gotcha.
there's the personal and deeper personal development reason, which was to stretch myself and get out of my comfort zone. I had this huge hang up about how I presented into the world before that event. So I needed to go there so I wouldn't feel like an imposter in certain environments. Like before that, I wouldn't really stretch myself in a lot of different ways. Now, I'm not a shy person or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's just it was a hang up or a limiting belief that I held, that I don't belong in that space, or I don't belong in that space. So that was the more important reason as to why I went, was to get over that fear. It's like
Hmm.
you can know something logically, but it's something else to know it in your heart or know it in your feelings. It's You got to get those two things to dive. So that's why I was there.
So after that experience, how did that affect that limiting belief?
Um, it helped me to make the connection between what I knew in my head and
Mhm.
what I wanted to feel and know in my heart or conscious. And that was that I do have value that I can add to people. No one really cares all that much, and that's okay. But I still have to ship the idea. I have to ship the content. And 85% of the content, if anyone follows me, like, I put out a lot of content every day.
Yeah, you
And
do.
most of the time no one really looks at it. And I'm okay with that. But it's no longer a hang up for me. It's just put it out there, and occasionally something resonates with someone, and that's great. But I'm not for everybody.
Yeah,
But I
I feel
needed to know
you.
that and be comfortable with that.
You know that what you just said was so powerful that some people, if they heard that line that nobody cares, they could be discouraged by that. However, it's not about having everyone care, but having the right people care. And you have to be able to get over this mental dialogue that we can have sometime of, well, nobody likes my content or nobody likes what I'm doing, which is not true. You have to make sure and be open to the idea. I was talking to a friend of mine about that, being open to the idea of posting your content like a billboard on a highway.
Mm,
When a lawyer pays whatever thousands of dollars for their ad to be on the highway, they are fully aware that not everyone is going to pull over and call them, but they're looking for the right person to call them. But in
right.
order to find the right person, you have to be willing to put your billboard out there and understand that a lot of people just go drive past it, just go drive past it. However, you're going to get a couple hundred people that are going to say, hey, my sister needs a lawyer. Hey, my brother's been in an accident. Let me screenshot that. You're out there putting yourself out there, fully understanding that on the highway, a lot of people are going to fly by, fly by, fly. You're expecting that. And that's okay, because there's power in putting yourself out there, because the power is understanding the science of exposure. Please go
So
ahead.
there's another way that I think about that,
Mm.
and that is that I realized for me, so I'm 33 years old. So for 32 years of my life, all of the burdens that I had in my life were completely made up. And it's holding on to, like, I don't post on Instagram. Like, having a business transaction take place is a helpful side effect of exposing myself. So I get the science of marketing and exposure, but it's more important for me to remind myself that if no one interacts with me, I'm not going to die, and it
Ooh.
doesn't matter. So if I never conduct any business on Instagram, if no one ever likes my post, it has so much more about me realizing that when I start letting all that go, whether it's Instagram or family members or friends of this, like, no one cares, and that's liberating. And it's not that they're insensitive. It's just
Exactly.
that in the same way that we get caught up in our own minds about what other people are thinking, everyone else is doing the same thing. And when you realize that they don't care, then you can actually focus on yourself, taking care of yourself, and then also adding the value that the right person needs. But it's all birthed from just letting all that weight go.
Mm.
So it's like, if you were to tell me that that was, an arrogant point of view or selfish, that has very, like, your perception of me has nothing to do with my perception of me. So the longer I carry all that weight, the longer I'm going to have to wait to meet me.
Mm.
And there's people who go through their whole life, they never really meet themselves. Like, it's uncomfortable to get to know that. Like, I learned partly with that experience and from other experience over the past year that, hey, I'm not as nice as I thought I was. I'm not as patient as, and that, like, that would have crushed me before, because I wanted to be nice and patient. I was like, you know what? I'm nice and I'm patient, but I'm also impatient. I can also be boisterous or arrogant at times, but that's just what makes me me. So
Mhm.
instead of trying to act like I'm someone else by trying to manage your expectations of me, I'll just be me. And your
Mm.
expectations will be your expectations, and that's okay. And in fact, it's necessary. So I just want to on that.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you said one of my most favorite words, liberating, because I feel the same way. I feel the same way. There is a feeling and experience of liberation once you understand that very few things in life really matter.
Yeah.
Really. And the thoughts of others is not one of them. It's not one of them. And
No,
once you make space for that and understand that aspect, it it's liberating. You
for sure.
feel, I don't know about you, but I feel braver and bolder because of it. Because me going after something, me putting myself out there, my success is not based off of the response of others. My
Hmm.
success is based off of my actions.
Hmm.
I find pride in execution,
Hmm.
because I know deep down inside, few people are brave enough to execute,
Hmm.
period, on
Hmm.
their dreams, on their aspirations, on their goals. Very few people are brave enough and willing to execute, to put themselves out there. So I know that if I am willing to just do that, I am part of the passionate few.
Yep,
And that does bring me great pride.
for sure.
It
I
really,
agree with
really
that
does.
100%.
Now, Dave,
100%.
I'm dying to know,
Mhm.
who is your customer help? Why are you working on helping engineers? What's that all about, Dave?
Okay, so here's how I look at it. Um, is that an engineer, how people perceive engineers in the world, and let you in on a secret. Most engineers are egomaniacs. Like, we pride ourselves on intellectual horsepower. Like, that's,
Yeah.
you hear that a lot when you're a kid of, like, hey, you're real smart. You should be a
Yes.
doctor, lawyer, or engineer, right? So engineer was the path that I chose.
Mm.
It's that we have our problem solving minds that are good at, like, taking in a lot of data. And it's, for a lot of us, it's an innate ability, but we're not solving interesting problems. And I think that the world would be a lot better place if more of us would solve more interesting and impactful and meaningful problems.
Mhm.
So that's why I want to do that. And it's not just geared towards engineers, because we all have, like, I believe a technical skill is anything in which you have mastery and you have an observed record of impacting change in a positive way.
Mhm.
So if you could just take that skill and take that experience and solve a problem that, number one, you find interesting, and two, will change the world in a better way, how you see it being a better way, that's much better than just saying, I'm going to go collect a check. And what you'll end up doing more than likely is earning more money and working less, like, working not as hard, because you're going to be impacting people in a much deeper and more meaningful way.
Mhm.
Let me elaborate on that. So what I mean by that is, I was working in manufacturing. So my job in a nutshell was to help companies make more money. Like, how do I get more product out the door with less effort or less people or less, right?
Mhm.
And that's interesting to make products cheaper or to increase margins, but that's not the best use of my talent because the market is not really demanding that. Like you end up in this spiral
Mhm.
where you have all these companies competing to do the same thing to ultimately go out of business. And then people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to
Mhm.
be losing their jobs, but like that kind of interaction always it's a net zero game every time. So instead of saying that or doing that, I'm taking my talent now to help manufacturers in that business collaborate with one another to say, hey, instead of me spending $1 million so I can compete with you, how about we just partner so then all of your employees can stay employed and ultimately my customer can get the thing. They don't care how it got there. They just want the thing.
Mm.
So that's a way to reduce cost, effort, increase speed of implementation without getting into the death spiral. And that's much more interesting to me than what I was doing before.
That is extremely intriguing. At what point did you decide that this was a new path you were going to take?
I was on the other side of that, wondering as an engineer when I was working on sourcing projects of why is this so difficult? And then I would have people ask me when I was able to put together a solution like, hey, vendor A, I need you to do this, and then send it to vendor B, and then vendor B, you send to vendor C. So I said, well, how did you do that? Well, I don't know. It just made sense to me to do it that way. There's no reason. Why am I going to put pressure on vendor A to be vendor B and C and continue through that loop when they can just work together and no one has to spend any money or try very hard, but it still works out good. Maybe it's 10% more expensive, but no one really cares because it got done so much faster.
Mhm.
And there's these times where people care about that. But, I love to read a lot and research like economics and human behavior, things like that. So, we over time in the industrial age, we began to value how do I get more stuff? Not do I want the stuff, but I just want more stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how our economy was built, our present version of the economy. But what's happening right now is that's not what people care about. Like we want experiences, we want what we want for a reason.
Exactly.
So why am I trying to give you a better, faster, cheaper when all you're really asking me for is better or faster or tailored to me?
Mhm.
So it's making sure that, even as an engineer, that the problem I'm solving is keeping up with what's required. Because ultimately, I tell young people when they're coming out of school now is that, even 12 years ago, 10 years ago, when I got out of school, a computer could do very little of my job. Now it could do half of my job. So in another
Mm.
10 years, it can do almost all of it. So that's not the value. Computers can crunch numbers and get to optimal solutions much faster than any of us if the program's written appropriately. But what they can't do yet is make relationships or
Yeah.
solve ambiguous problems. You still need people for that. So I'd rather solve the ambiguous problem or build the relationship than just, if you just take 2 out of this and put 3 over there, you'll be
Yeah.
5% better. Like that's just not that interesting. And no one's there's fewer and fewer people demanding that. Fewer and fewer
Mhm.
consumers that are demanding that.
Mm. And you know what I find interesting about that is the fact that what you just said, what computers can and can't do, and a computer, for the most part, can't foreshadow trends in that way in an industry.
Mhm.
It can't do that. But what I know is, Dave, it's awesome that you recognize that taking your skills to market in a new way was the best move for you. Because when people recognize it's time to pivot and they act on it, great things happen.
For sure. For sure.
But what
And
I
then
want to
there's
know,
also the personal pieces that I was absolutely miserable in my life. I did not like my life before that.
why?
So backtracking to when I was a kid, I've always been an entrepreneur. If you ask my dad, like from 2 or 3 years old, I was obsessed with people who made money and did what they wanted to do. And my dad, he's like, you just want to know how they did it and how they're able to do what they wanted to do all the time. So at 10 years old, my dad loaned me $10 to buy a lawnmower. So I built my little lawn empire in my hometown. So I loved it. Like I worked when I wanted to. I got to hang out with people that I found interesting and have interesting conversations, and I loved it. And then I became an adult and I got a degree and I got a job and I was miserable. Like
Mm.
I had a couple mental breakdowns just to be transparent. I developed like bad drinking and smoking habits to try to cope with the fact that I was miserable. And I was even diagnosed with like a mental disorder disease. And I'm not saying those things aren't true, but I also know that the decisions that we make, you may be my truth now is that we may be kind of I can't think of the word, like if a disease that you're apt to get. What's the word? Vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
You may be vulnerable to something, but that's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep fighting it, that will become who you are. So when I stopped fighting it, it was like, yeah, all those traits are still there, but I manage my environment. I manage my stress. I don't do things that like make me feel that tension that's not productive. So now I'm no longer that person. I'm a
Mm.
happy, balanced person. And sometimes I make more money. That first year in business, I definitely made a lot less money than I was accustomed to, but I was way happier. And I was just like, oh, this is way more important than, making six figures or making whatever, right?
Yeah.
Been there, done that, and I was always miserable. But when I was doing what I wanted to do, I was happy.
Mm.
Money aside. And it's also helpful growing up in a household where like my parents didn't go to college and stuff like that, or my grandparents. So I think I'm maybe the second, third person to graduate from college. But they also they've built very interesting lives of doing what they wanted to do. And then the money thing that was instilled in me as a kid was you can always make money if you're not going to be too proud to do whatever. So it's
Mm.
like I'm not too proud to do whatever as long as I get to do what I want. But I had to let go of when people meet David the engineer, there's prestige that comes with that. And it's not for the money, it's because I didn't want to let go of not being able to tell people I was an engineer, or taking that away from my mom, or taking that away from some other person to be able to tell them that they know an engineer.
Mm.
But I'm the engineer who's miserable and they're the person that's happy doing what they want to do.
Wow. So it's almost like your ego was interfering with
I'd
your
rather be
happiness.
just David than to be an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah. So
For sure.
David, you just
And I
said
didn't
that.
realize it at first.
Mm, you just said earlier on that one of the changes you had to make was managing your environment. What do you mean by that?
So the first time where I went to the emergency room when I was 23, 24, I was at a job. I thought I was having a heart attack. What I was having was an anxiety attack. And it
Mm.
was debilitating. So they sent the ambulance, the whole 9 yards. It was a very traumatic experience for me. And when I got to the emergency room, the nurse was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "I don't know. I was at work and I started feeling weird. I think I'm having a heart attack." She was like, "No, you're good. You're just very stressed. And if you're in a job that makes you feel that way, you should do something else."
Mm.
And then she walked away. I was like, "Oh, no, no, no. It's something else." Right. So I carried that around for 9 more years. And then it occurred to me that, oh, I'm just doing things that are not for me. And I don't know why I'm doing it. I didn't want to do it in the first place, but I did it anyway. And then I created a story that made it make logical sense, but it never made heart sense to me.
Yeah.
So now, one of my business associates and my mentors, he always says, if you're going into an interaction and you feel that kind of pit in your stomach, he calls that static. And he said, static is your heart telling your mind that something's not right. And you should listen to that. And there's a difference between productive anxiety. That's like that, feeling a little revved up. We're going to get through this. And then there's that thing that's debilitating. That's static. And they feel a lot alike physically, but emotionally that they're different. And if you can learn to listen to that, when I have that, like even entering into a business interaction, if I just don't get good vibes from that person, I don't care how much they want to pay me. I'm not doing it.
Mm.
Like you could pay me $1 million for 1 hour of my time. It's not going to be worth it because I'm not going to respect myself. And this is going to lead somewhere that I don't want it to go. I've been there, done that. Whereas now it's like, oh, I like this person. Let's do business, or this podcast. I enjoy conversing with you. I think you have a wonderful spirit. You have a great topic, a great podcast, a great page. You have great energy. Like I feel great about that. Regardless of what the economic impact is at the end, I just feel good about it. So I'll do that.
Mm. Now, take me back to that point where you said, okay, Dave, I am walking away from my 9 to 5 and I'm going all in on this. What took you to that point and what was it like transitioning?
Um, so what happened was in 2019, I'd been at my job for about that current job for about 6 years.
Hmm.
And I'd made them uh, probably about 100 million extra dollars over 6 years that they didn't have. Now,
Wow.
keep in mind, I've gotten raises all that time, but I never got promotion. I rarely got a thank you. So about 6 months before I left, I said, you know what, I'm going to ask for a raise and promotion. At the very least, I title promotion so that if I get another job, like it doesn't look good to sit somewhere and say you've done all these things, but you don't have the accompanying accolades to go with it.
Yeah.
So long story short, my manager told me, no, but you're doing a great job. Thank you. I was all right, cool. So I started looking for jobs and it just didn't feel right. I was like, I don't want to go do this again. It's just going to end up the same way. So I started just thinking of what can I do? What can I do? So I came across the transportation industry, owning a trucking company and owning a freight brokerage. So I said, I'm going to do that. So I started doing that and it was a disaster. Those businesses failed miserably. So I jump out there, but when they failed, I always felt good about it. Like, hey, I tried it out. That's cool. I learned something that I can carry forward. And I started to realize that I was happier and it had nothing to do with money. Now, granted, I was prepared financially to not make any money for 12 to 18 months.
So you've been
So,
stacking for a minute.
well, stacking, but also my wife and I are real estate investors as well.
Hmm.
So we had made some investments and she wanted to quit her job. So, of course, last year, real estate went berserk.
Yeah.
Said, let's liquidate some assets. This is going to buy us a lot of time.
Yes.
And that's the important thing. It's like, it's not the money, it's what the money can do for you. And like that became so clear to me. Before I was focused on a number instead of
Yeah.
focused on my time or focused on my freedom or focused on like just enjoying life.
Hmm.
Because, I'm going to tie this quick little point in. A few years ago, my dad sat me down. We were just having a conversation. He said, son, he wanted to be a marine biologist. And my dad works at a factory in my hometown. He's been there for 44 years, I believe. And I never knew that about my dad. And that broke my heart because that's something he really wanted to do. I always wondered why we had fish tanks in our house because I thought it was such an odd thing. But I was like, whatever. It's just what's in my house. And you don't question it after a while. But it's because my dad was into that sort of thing. But he thought because I was born and he was married and reason after reason, right? He had to do all these other things that ultimately I didn't care about. My siblings don't care about. We all care way more about him being happy and doing what he wants to do than saying that we got a car when we were 16 or
Yeah.
we went to Disney World every year. Like those things were great. But as an adult, like, and as a man, I'm much more concerned about my dad being happy
Yeah.
than making sacrifices that, quite frankly, I didn't need or didn't care about. And that broke my heart. So that also started the wheel to thinking of why am I doing this? Like I started using my wife as a crutch of saying, I got to make sure that my wife doesn't have to worry about money. Well, she didn't ask me for that.
Hmm.
That's just something I picked up from society or an insecurity or whatever, right? She's not going to love me any less because I don't make 6 figures or 5 figures or $1 million or whatever, right? She just wants me to
Yeah.
be happy. In the same way, I just want her to be happy and stress free. So it's just, you start piecing all these things together. Hey, I'm miserable. And then I see my dad, like, not only do we have the same name, we're almost the same person and how we
Mm.
think and how we move in the world. So it's like me fast forwarding 30 years and seeing how I'm going to be if I don't make a change. And I'm not going to regret taking care of my family, but I will regret not enjoying my life while taking care of my family. They're not mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Yeah. Say that
You
again.
can't do
That's true.
everything, but you can do a couple of things that are important to you.
Yeah. So tell me about that very first month, right? That very first month. Take me back to that moment where you had already resigned from your position.
Mhm.
And now, actually, let me scale back. When you resigned from your position, did you already have an idea of what business you wanted to start? Or you just said, look, I got to get out of here. I'll figure it out as I go. What was it?
Yes, I already had incorporated the businesses. So at the time, I had a business partner
Mm,
who was looking to do something different. So we had already started the path. Like we already bought the truck, the trailer, the whole 9 yards. So it was already on its way.
mm,
Um, I turned in my notice on January the 2nd or 3rd of 2020. At that job, like we got stock options, so I had to be there on January 1st to get my options. I'd already stayed that long, so I said, let me go ahead and get those couple coins for the future.
Yes.
So I
Wise
turned in
move.
the notice, and then I was out. But what happened was, to make a long story short, that business relationship, it was a personal friendship and a business relationship, completely blew up
Mm,
over about 6 months. So I didn't make any money, lost a friendship, had a lot of stress, but I was still much happier than where I was before. So I said, hey, this is the path for me. And I learned a lot about myself during that experience. And that was that it's great to have partnerships. And there's all this data that tells you businesses and partnerships perform several times better than solopreneurs.
mhm.
But what it doesn't tell you is what a partnership really means. it doesn't mean that you have to be legally bound to anyone. It just means that there's two people with skill sets to complement one another. So, for instance, you and I could partner on a podcast without starting an LLC. We're just going to
Mhm.
show up and do a podcast every week.
Mhm.
So, some partnership decisions are best made through hires or non legal means, or like a legal mean that says either of us can leave at any time and retain our own intellectual property and all that kind of thing. So, that first month, I really just kind of, for like 6 months, I was hanging out because the business relationship wasn't going well. Um, Things weren't progressing the way that I thought they would. There were some commitments that were made ahead of time that weren't being held. So I said, this doesn't seem right. And the harder I tried to push through, the harder the universe would put the brakes on the situation. And
Mm.
I'm a firm believer that the universe protects kids and fools, and I was being foolish, so the universe was protecting me. Um, so that whole thing had to blow up so I could realize who I was, what I needed, what I wanted. Also, rest. I
Mm.
needed to recuperate from being on call. I was on call for 24/7 for 10 years almost. And I didn't realize how tired I was. I was
Mm.
really tired. So just resting, um, learning through that experience that I'm enough, and being just myself. And also that I like to do things a certain way, how I want to do it. And in that case, having a partner, it wasn't all about the other person. A lot of that's me. I am
Mm.
inflexible because I want to do things a certain way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you know that up front.
But here's my question to you, though. What aspects of this partnership did you recognize? You just said one of them is, that you like to do things a certain way. However, how much of this partnership failing was a communication issue? Did you guys know upfront what your vision was, what the focus was, and how you were going to do it?
I thought so. I thought so. Um, Another what I learned from that experience is I'm a big advocate of taking like extreme accountability for how I contributed to a situation. So I did not communicate as clearly what my expectations were
Mm.
because I was shrinking myself, and I realized I had a habit of always shrinking myself, or very often with people, especially if their personalities, like if they're very charismatic. Oh man, I was a huge sucker for charisma before. And so if you come to me with good vibes, in quotations, charisma, confidence, whether that's real or false, I'm going to shrink myself because I was insecure.
Define
So
shrinking yourself. What does that mean?
I used to would say, if someone gave me a compliment, say, "Hey, David, you're really smart," I would say, "Oh, no, 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 I'm just a regular guy." Or if someone said, "Hey, you really helped me with this," I really didn't do much. Or if you're really excited, there's something you want to do, and I know it's not good for you. Now, I'm not going to tell you not to do it even to this day, but I would say I really want you to be a part. Like, oh man, I don't want to be a part of this train wreck, but I can't tell them no. So I'm going to make myself small and say, okay, I want to be a 5-year-old
Wow.
that just has to do what their parents says. And I learned through
Wow.
that experience that, hey, I do add value. I do know things. Um, and it's okay for me to stand on that and say, hey, I don't know everything, but I know a lot about this. So after the end of the day, when you get done saying all that, I'm still going to know more about this than you, but on something else, I'm going to defer. It's okay for me to shrink myself there, but I can't give you all my power on everything.
Mm. Got it. Got it. So, what exactly about the freight brokering business went awry? You guys had to say, you know what, it's a wrap because the trucking
So
industry is real.
the first two businesses didn't go anywhere because the relationship was it was a mess.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I started another freight brokerage by myself, and that was going okay. Um, so let me tie in my current business, and I think it's going to help make sense of why I got out of that business. It is a great business. It's a
Mhm.
really good business. The reason I got out of it was, number one, it wasn't a very interesting problem.
Mhm.
Number two was I had a track record of success in my given industry of delivering value. So when I would go to my professional network to say, hey, I'm a freight broker now, they would say, hey, cool, David, come on in, let's talk. But let's
Ah,
talk about how you can help me quadruple my business in the next 5 years. And if you help me do that, I'll give you all the freight. So it's like,
genius.
well, I can't really do both. I can help you do one, or I can help you do the other. I can't really do both at the same time because they're both full-time things.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why I got out of that business. And then the third reason was the personalities. So um, I'm used to interacting with people with a certain type of emotional intelligence or way that their personalities, if you will. And in manufacturing, everyone kind of has a very similar kind of personality. It's usually a little bit more reserved. It's all about the data. It's a little less emotional.
Mhm.
I don't deal well with people that are super emotional, like uncontrolled emotionality. I just don't deal well with it. Now I was a sucker for it, but it never works out well for me. But I
Mm.
also had just learned that lesson. So it's nothing worse than being on the phone with a trucker when you're a freight broker and a load is late. So they come, hey, they got me waiting around. All right, what do you want? I can't believe you have me waiting. Oh no, that's not what I'm asking. What do you want? Do you want $100? You want $50? Do you want to
Yeah.
cancel? Just tell me what you want. They just want to fuss. They don't want to tell
Yeah.
you what they want. So I was like, you know what? This is not for me. I just feel stressed out in all these interactions over like, hey, did you deliver on time? Oh yeah, I delivered early yesterday. You weren't supposed to do that, but thanks for
Mm.
not letting me know. So I learned that just the personalities I was coming across, nothing wrong with those people. It's just not for me.
Mm.
It's like no matter if I make $1,000 for 5 minutes of work, well, I have to be stressed out for the next 36 hours while that load is on that truck because I don't know what this guy's going to do. I don't know how he's going to talk to my customers who are also my friends, right?
Yeah.
If you show up cussing them out, they're going to be looking at me like,
Yeah.
ah. And now I've, ruined a friendship and a business relationship for a couple bucks. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean by that. And you know what's it's interesting to hear your story because I can tell through your experiences, through all of your experiences, how you've naturally landed on your current business because
Mhm.
it's beautiful to see how if people are, like you said, emotionally intelligent and self-aware, which I know you are, Dave. You're very, very self-aware. The power of self-awareness is recognizing what works and what doesn't work. What part
Mhm.
of it I'm accountable for, what part of it I cannot control because these are external elements. And then the power of entrepreneurship is crafting a business that leads towards your strengths
Mhm.
and not towards your weaknesses.
Oh yeah.
Like, because you're able to lean in hard and not have to deal with the nonsense of your previous
Mhm.
businesses.
Yeah. Being an employee is all about improving your weaknesses, but it's really overrated.
Mm.
Like,
Now, let me
it'd
ask
be
you
like
this though.
Steph Curry trying to learn how to be a slam dunk champion. That's not his thing. He shoots threes.
Now, let me ask you this though. How have you grown emotionally and mentally during this entire process?
Oh, and I think just in ways that are unimaginable. That it was unimaginable to me before. I always had this vision of the confident person that I wanted to be,
Mm.
the self-assured person that I wanted to be. I just wasn't that person. But it's all these little practices of attending a content creation boot camp where I feel like I'm an imposter at first, but realizing, hey, we're all just regular people trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Like genuinely want to help you. No one is out to get me, and if they are, yeah, that's their problem. But because there's so much good energy, in the room, like they're going to get ostracized pretty quickly anyway. They're going to be the odd man out, not all the people there with pure intentions.
Yeah.
So I'm able to understand a different perspective now without taking on that perspective. So I can learn from it like as a research assignment rather than taking on someone else's weight.
You say a special word, work, work, work. If there's one thing I have recognized about you, Dave, is that you are not fearful about putting in the work. And when it comes to working on yourself personally, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you talked about how you liked Bob Proctor. Why do you like him so much?
The way that he speaks resonates with me, and the way that he's so unapologetically himself and also charged up about life at almost 90 years old.
Hmm.
Like he was doing an interview, or I was doing a web conference with him, not me one on one. It was like a group thing,
Yeah.
and he said, people think that I'm crass and I'm this. He said, and I don't give a care. I'm gonna
Hmm.
censor that. He said, I don't care, and that hit me in a totally different way. I said, his intentions are pure.
Yeah.
He's going to help you to the best of his ability. What you think about that is your business. He ain't gonna worry about
Mm.
all that.
I like that. I like that. I think over and over again, listening to you, Dave, it's that's the power of putting yourself out there. And in the space of entrepreneurship, there is an interesting thing that happens if people allow it to happen. And
Mhm,
sometimes it's forced upon them, which is forced growth, because you have to grow in
mhm,
order to make your business grow. Because when you're starting out in any business, you are a solopreneur first.
mhm.
First. first. You may have one partner, but still it's solo dolo because the onus is on you. The responsibility is on you. It doesn't matter how many team members you have. You are the visionary, you are the leader, it is on you. So because the business starts with you first, the success or failure of it starts with you first. And so understanding that you have to get you right in order to get your business right is a key component that some don't recognize until later on, or sometimes when it's too late, way too late. So with that, the interesting thing that happens, I've seen over and over again interviewing people, is they recognize that, okay, I have to stretch myself in order to let this business grow. I have to stretch myself. I have to put myself in these uncomfortable situations in order to propel this business forward. Because like I said, you are the business. You are that entity for the very first phase or for a very long time. And understanding the value of personal development, understanding the value of maintaining a resilient mindset is what makes or breaks people in all phases of their business, but especially during that infant phase, that infantile phase of their business. And I think that is wonderful to see how you've taken charge of that and how you've also recognized that for you, leaning into your superpower that is authenticity is something that no one can touch. No one can touch. No one can touch Dave because there's only one Dave. No, there's millions of engineers, but there's only one Coach Dave Jones.
Yeah.
No
That was
one
so
can
beautifully said. So beautifully. I love that how you said that. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. It's fact. It's fact. And I hope that when people listen and watch this podcast or listen to this podcast and watch this video, that they understand that for them it's the same thing. Case in point, I am a podcaster. I am a YouTuber. There's millions of podcasters. There's millions of YouTubers. However, no one can do it like I do it. So I know for a fact that there's space for me. But the key is that I must always remember to lean into who I am. Lean into me more. When in doubt, lean into who I am more. Because that is that differentiation in the market that no one can take from me. Yeah. If anything, it's that, well, now I'm going down that road. But yeah, making sure that you have that slight edge. Being you is the ultimate slight edge. Authenticity is the ultimate slight edge. The ironic part is that we're so fearful of being who we are in public that we find comfort in mimicking others. And to me, it is so deeply ironic because it doesn't work. Because some people can smell the smoke. Even if they can't see the fire, they can smell the smoke and say, something's off. That don't smell right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on top of
only
that,
if you've developed the sense to smell that.
True. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
And on top of that, when you try to perform and act like someone else because you think their way is the right way, it is always going to feel like immense work and is not going to be easy to sustain. And if anything, I know that I plan on being here and doing this work for decades, right? Decades. And so it must be sustainable. And so what is the easiest thing I can do for myself is wake up and be me. I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about, okay, I need to say the right things. No, I'm going to say what I've always been saying, whether there was a light or mic on or not. That's sustainable for me. Building a business around who we are and building a business around what we will naturally be doing and what we're naturally passionate about will yield major results because we built something that is congruent with who we are. A lot of things I find people are building things because they're told that's the right thing. And it may be the right thing, but it may not be the right thing for them. And so they are constantly bucking their head against this wall, where they are not taking the time to know who they are, being self-aware, recognizing what that is, and then assessing other business opportunities against that. Because like you said, I know many successful freight brokers, truck owners, et cetera, et cetera. I have many friends that's what they do. They're in the trucking logistics industry. It's great. However, that's not for me. That's because I know myself. Yes, is it very lucrative? Of course, but there's many lucrative opportunities out there. And the most important thing, and I appreciate you saying this, Dave, is when you prioritize your mental health, when you prioritize your peace, when you prioritize your happiness, everything must line up with that first. And you have that as the center of your world, then everything else will flow around it. But a lot of times what we find ourselves doing is, and I understand that life causes that way. And so it's very hard to understand and to see that if you try to center your world around money, you're never going to find any type of happiness or peace. anytime. But if you center your world around peace, your mental health, and happiness for you and your family, everything else will work. Everything else will work.
Mm. Can I jump in right there real quick?
Please.
All the soft stuff, the quote unquote soft stuff that you just describe, happiness, peace, mental health, like that's all the real stuff in life.
Yeah.
And we have such a propensity, particularly in our culture, to confuse the real stuff and the fake stuff.
Yeah.
Money is not a goal. Money is a byproduct of peace, happiness, mental health, physical health. Like all those things are real. If money did not exist, all of that would still exist. If that
Yeah.
did not exist, there would be no money because guess what? There was just a guy at some point who made that up.
Yeah.
It's just an idea that's persisted for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is real, but the thing is not real. So it's like if you're chasing money, it's just like if you're under the influence of a hallucinogenic drug, you're always chasing something that's not real. You're going to wear yourself out.
Mm.
But you can arrive at peace. You can arrive at like this peace of mind and joy.
Yeah.
You can never arrive at rich
Mm.
because there's always more rich. Always.
Mm.
Even Elon Musk is the richest man in the world that we know of, but he
Yep.
can always be more rich
Yep.
because he can always make up the way that money works is when the people decide that there needs to be more money, there will be more money.
Yep.
But for yourself, for your peace, you have to work for the peace and you have to maintain. It's almost, I think of like a binary thing. Like either you have it or you don't. So once you have it, you got to keep it.
Yeah. And you have to protect it ferociously. Ferociously. I protect my peace ferociously because it is something that nothing can ever buy and nothing can ever replace.
Yeah.
And you have to be in a space where protecting your peace may be misunderstood by others, and you have to be okay with that.
You have to.
You have to be okay with being misunderstood. And I'm not saying that from the line of being rude or disrespectful to others. No, you can always advocate for yourself, and you can always lay firm boundaries for others without being rude. It is possible. However,
It's necessary.
It's necessary. It's necessary. It's necessary. And I was saying to a friend the other day that one of the keys to happiness, especially that people don't recognize, is how would you live? How would you live and no one could see you if you were invisible? How would you live?
Mhm.
And there's no social media, none of your family friends can see you. How would you live in a way that makes you happy? In a way because when you really think about all of the things, especially the external material things that we think we want, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with material things. We all know that.
Yeah.
But how much of that is influenced off of the fact that we are seen by others? How much of that? Would you really be wearing that coat? Would you really be rocking those shoes? Would you really be buying that purse if nobody saw you? If it was invisible? Would you still rock it?
Mhm.
If yes, go for it. But if no, then sis, no, press pause on that.
If it makes
Nobody
you
cares.
feel good, do it.
Exactly. Do it.
Yeah. If it does not make you feel good, don't do that.
If that item was invisible to everyone else and only you saw it, would you still be happy? Would you still be happy owning it?
Yeah.
That's the real question.
There's a beautiful practice in that. And that is like if I don't know if you've watched the minimalist documentaries on Netflix.
I think I've seen it's with those two guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've saw the first one, but not all of them. Tell me more.
So kind of like the materialism piece aside, the core message is if you're going to spend money and time and effort, spend money, time, and effort on things that actually add value to your life, like that make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really a question that many of us are trained to ask ourselves, or even like if
Nope.
you are chasing that shirt or whatever, car, house, neighborhood, a certain amount of kids, why? And if you can answer that question quickly, it's probably important to you. If you can't
Yeah.
answer that question other than just because that's what success, that's a cop out. Instead of like, hey, I got this shirt, like I wear this white shirt every day because I sit with I just feel like an important person, even though it's just me in my office 98% of the time. It just makes me feel good. So I'm gonna do that.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's secondarily like important or a fringe benefit that other people think, man, you look nice today.
Yeah.
There's times I'll leave the house to go like to the post office. My wife, why are you putting that on? Because it makes me feel good.
Yeah. And that's all that
I'm not going to
matters.
see anybody.
That's all that matters. And in this space and time where humans are more interconnected than ever, being rooted in what makes you you and what makes you happy is all the more important. Because we're more interconnected than ever, we are all receiving more messaging than ever. Once upon a time, the only external messaging we got from the media was from television and from the newspaper, and maybe from the radio. That's it. Now, if you have this device here, you receive messages and messaging 24/7,
And it's
nonstop.
curated.
And
So
it's
that
curated. And they
that
make
could
sure
be
it's
really
addictive.
good or really bad. If you
So
already think you got a spot on your face, they're gonna show you all the people with spots on their face.
yeah. Yeah. So you have to be super rooted in who you are. Um, if not, people will attempt to tell you who you are or what you should be. And that's when things get dangerous. That's when things get really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, I want to take a quick pivot because I've always
Okay.
appreciated you being so transparent about your experiences and about taking care of your mental health. And I wanted to know, how has your lifestyle change affected your overall mental health?
Uh, in major ways, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I used to have to go to, like, if I was having an episode, I had to go to a psychiatrist like every week to make
Hmm.
sure that my meds were being monitored.
Hmm.
And about a year ago, I went in. My psychiatrist was like, "Hey, how are your meds doing?" I was like, "Great." She was like, "What are you taking?" "No, none of them." And she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I don't do things that I hate doing every day that make me sad, miserable. I also don't eat crappy food. I eat whole organic food for the most part, and I feel amazing. And if I feel like I'm slipping, the medicine is no longer my what sustains me. It's just a crutch. It's like, I don't know what's going on. I know this will keep me from falling until I figure it out." And then once I
Gotcha.
figured out, and she told me, she had this perplexed look on her face. She said, she said, "Number one, uh, I wish you could tell all of my patients this. And number two, I'll see you in a year or two." Which for me
Wow.
was, I'm not clinically diagnosable in that way anymore.
Yeah.
No, there's comfort for me in maintaining that relationship because this is still an experiment for me
Yeah.
to see if I do have a major crisis. I want to make sure that my support network is intact. But outside of that, I'm good. So I'm no longer a person with this. I'm a person who manages it.
Yeah.
And as long as I manage my life, like, this part of me doesn't overcome my life. So that's how it's changed. I'm able to prioritize, like, even this morning. I made a post about it. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm not rushing to a customer or a job. I'm taking a walk.
Yeah.
I have time to take care of my physical health. I make time to take care of my physical, mental, and emotional health. If I can't do that, I'm not going to be effective at anything else. So I got to do that first.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this though. Were At what point did you recognize that you needed to talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist?
It was actually my wife. I have to give her a lot of credit. So I've been going to therapy and stuff pretty consistently for almost a decade now.
Hmm.
And I keep my resources, like, available. I don't go every
I
week
like
sort
that.
of thing, just like when I need it. And
Hmm.
I check in periodically just to make sure I'm not falling off my rocker.
Hmm.
It's good to have that kind of objective outside look at your life.
Yeah.
But I was in the midst of a major mental breakdown. I mean, I was out of work for 60 days, rolled up in a ball kind of breakdown.
Mm.
And my wife is like, you should go to therapy. So, this is younger me thinking, oh, she's going to think I'm not a man if I'm weak, right? She's like, no, you just need to, like, get help. Everybody needs help. And then for me, that was enough to be like, you know what? This is great. This is a person who cares about me as a person, not as a man, not as a husband. She just cares about me as a person.
Yeah.
And she wants me to be well. So it took the stigma off for me. And not only she encouraged me to go, she would take me. She would sit in the room. And in the course of, going through various exercises over time, sometimes I'm the problem. Sometimes I'm not the problem. Sometimes somebody else is the problem. And if a person really loves you and cares about you, then if they realize that they're the problem, if they actually love you, they're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to make the decision: is me being me, um, number one, is me being me, is this really me? And then number two, is me holding on to this being a detriment to this person? What's more important? us or me?
So now, if this does exist, let me know. If it doesn't, let me know. But
Mhm.
are there certain habits and boundaries, no goes, red flags that you do, the habits you do, and the things that you automatically say, nope, red flag, not doing it,
Mhm.
to keep yourself in the right space mentally and emotionally?
Yes.
What are
Um,
they?
I make a habit of saying no to almost everything. And just by saying no, then there's no need to build a boundary. It's just a dead end road, and that's that. So even if I want to say yes, I'll still say no unless it supports my predetermined narrative of this is a thing I need to do to get to where I'm trying to get to next. Outside of that, even if it's like enticing, it's still a no. And then I can always say yes later, but I try to lead with no more than yes. And before I always led with yes. But there's no power. I learned, I forget who I heard this from. There's no power in yes. All the power and growth is in no.
Mm,
And that really that informed me. And it's such a simple statement, but it really informed how I built my life. Because now I don't say I'm building a business. Now I say I'm building a life that I find interesting.
ooh,
And my marriage is a part of that. That's number one. Well, first, my number one priority is me.
yeah.
Am I happy? And then is my wife happy? And then is my business doing well? And then is my extended family and friends doing well? Because if I don't prioritize it in that way and make my no's and yeses based off of that,
Yeah.
I'm going to end up somewhere that's not good for number one, and that's me. And if I'm not good, well, then I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good business leader. I can't be a good friend or family member. So that's like a different way to say, I was just talking to a guy. He said, David, how do you find balance in your life? I said, well, I don't have balance in my life. I don't have balance. What I have is harmony. So
Yeah.
I work 7 days a week, which some people would call obsessive, but that's what I like to do. But I don't work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. It's more like
Yeah.
3 hours a day, 2 hours a day, sometimes 20 minutes a day. But I also talk to my wife every day. I also work on my mental health and personal development every day. And if I can find a way that all these things can interact and I can move out of activity to activity and they're all supporting one another, man, that's a great life.
Mm.
And then
First of
if
all,
I end up becoming a millionaire out of that, that's cool too. But as long as I get to do what I want to do every day, regardless of money, which is fake, I'm tickled pink.
now I'm going to need you to launch a masterclass on that at the top of 2022, sir. How to manage your business for 3 to 20 minutes a day. I need that masterclass, sir. Let you know that right
Okay,
now.
I got you. I can give you the master class in 60 seconds.
Then go. Give me the masterclass in 60 seconds then.
Say no to everything. And if it just do it for like a week. And then after you don't do everything for a week, you're going to see what's important to you, and it's an awful lot less than you probably think it is.
Hmm. I'm
So
going to take
like
you
I've
up on a
learned
challenge.
that, yeah. And there's other tactics, but it's really just that simple. Warren Buffett, if I can find the video, I'll send it to you. But he talks about that. So people ask me, what is my secret to success in becoming a billionaire? He said, if you bring me 100 opportunities, I'm going to say no to 99 of them.
Hmm.
I'm looking for the one that checks not most of the boxes, it has to check all the boxes. And if it doesn't check all the boxes, it's a no.
Hmm.
Like he said, I missed out on Apple and all these like other great Amazon. He said, because it just didn't check the boxes for me.
Yeah.
But that checked the boxes for me. So then he's like, yeah, you need to make, one super high quality decision or one super high quality action a day. If you just say yes to the one right thing every day, well, now you're not working as hard, but you're making so much more progress. Because when you say yes to 10 things, then you're saying no to almost all of them at the same time. You're
Hmm.
not going to get any of them done.
That's true.
None of them are going to be high quality decisions. None of them are going to be high quality actions. They're just going to be, okay, I'm living an okay life.
Yeah.
And that's your
No.
goal. Well, do that. But if your goal is to live a great life, and not great how I say it should be great, but great how you have to create space. And I love when you said that earlier. You have to create space. And no creates all the space. Yes crowds the space.
Say that one more time, Dave.
No creates the space. Yes crowds your space. So even say to yourself, like I do this all the time. I have to tell myself no for how I might want to respond to something. to say like, even when you said masterclass, first thing in my mind was I can make money doing that. I was like, wait a minute, it's really not that complicated. Just say no, free gift for me to you. Hit me up. We can talk about this more. I love to talk about it, but that's probably not the best use of my time for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I already have a path that I'm on. And if I take that path, right, then I'm going to be off doing something else that it's interesting. Maybe I'll do that in March, but it probably won't be good for January.
Yeah. But that also hits to another point that we can just talk forever. Dave, I can talk to you forever. Because the reason why you're able to say no with ease is not only because you built a muscle, but also because you are very clear on what your work is and you're very focused on it, which both
But
lines
it
up
started
with,
from the no, though. I didn't figure that out until I started saying no
hmm,
because I didn't have time to think about it. I didn't have time to figure it out and to get to know myself. And the reason people don't say no is because it's uncomfortable. There's always that awkward silence when you say no,
yeah, that's
even
true.
if it's just inside of your head, because you're going to say, I want that ice cream. No, I really want that ice cream. And you got to tell it no. All right, well,
Yeah.
what are we going to do next? We're going to sit here. All right. And that's
Yeah.
uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, it is.
But then when you're
It
not
is.
eating ice cream, you might figure out that you like to podcast or write books or just there's a mess going on in your head and you need to sort that out. But now
Yeah.
you got time. You created space. So now it's much easier in the future to say no. It's like not even to create space, but it's like you realize you have a lot less space than you think. Your space that you have is finite.
Yes.
And if you crowd it with the wrong things, like that's when we say we don't have time. We don't. Like, no, you do. You just have to say no to like that thing, that person, that whatever that's taking up too much of the space.
Hmm.
And I found that when I do that and I make my intentions clear to the universe, that's how I say it. Now, some people might want to say God or whatever works for you. I'm not here to preach to anybody for what they should do.
Hmm.
But when you make your intentions clear to the world, to the universe, it's going to help you. And it's also going to test you to say, all right, let's see if you're real about this. Let me thought this once in a lifetime deal. Most things are once in a lifetime. It don't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
Still say no. It's kind of like you might only have one chance to jump off a cliff into a concrete pool with no water, but don't mean you should take that opportunity. That's a no.
Like that.
People
I
do that
like
all the
that.
time. Yeah.
But Dave, as we wrap up, I want to know this though.
Okay.
If the Dave of today could go back to the Dave of 23 years old, that same Dave that was having panic attacks in the ER, what would you tell him?
I would tell him the same thing I would tell. I have a 27-year-old mentee. I ran into him last week. Like, it's gonna be okay, bro. And the reason you're struggling right now is because you're trying to keep too many balls in the air. Just let some of them fall. And you're not gonna like it. And I know this sounds easy what I'm saying. You're not gonna like it, but it's gonna be okay. In fact, let them all fall. It's gonna be all right. And then take some time to look at all the ones and say, if I can only keep one ball, which one would I keep? And then pick up that ball and focus on that ball for at least 5 years. And then maybe you'll have that ball going so good. Maybe you built a machine for that ball. Now you can pick up another one. But until you can pick up the one, don't try to pick up the 10. And it's okay. It's all right. But 23 to 33-year-old David had to learn that the hard way. But that's
We all
what
do.
33-year-old David told 23. It's just, it's all right. I let so many good opportunities pass me by just because I'm like, I don't want to pick that ball up. That's going to cramp
Yeah.
my style.
And you know what, Dave? The other aspect of that people fail to miss, and you articulated it so well earlier on, was there are a lot of great opportunities, but they may not be your opportunity. Great opportunities pass all the time. I may have someone to knock on my door today and say, hey, I have an opportunity for you to be the world's best singer. I'm not a singer. That's not my opportunity. It is a great opportunity, but it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think in many ways, we're so thirsty for change and thirsty for success that we don't recognize what is for us and what is not for us. And so we grab onto whatever looks shiny to our detriment.
You said something that has hit me a different way.
Mm-hmm.
When opportunities are presented to you, it's not for you. It's for the person presenting it. Because if I bring you the singing opportunity, it's because I want to sell you a microphone and a mixer, not because I care about what you're going to sing about. But if you just
Mm,
sing and you give me your voice, that's for you. You created the opportunity through giving. Opportunities are not received, they're given. And once you give, right, other people will give you. That's their opportunity to create value for you.
mm.
But it has to start with you giving. Can I ask you one question before we get off of here?
Yeah, please.
This is important. What is your definition of success?
I already said it, but I'll happily say it again. A life where you know in your heart when you wake up that you are content, that you are joyful, and that you have peace. And if you can't have all three, strive for contentment and peace. Because people don't like that word contentment because they think that being content means that you're settling in some way. But very few people are content in life. Very few people are content. People are so thirsty for this Disney definition of happiness. And the problem I have with that is no one, I know this may sound like an unpopular opinion, but no one can be happy all the time, nor should they be happy all the time. Um, if you were perpetually happy all the time, that could clinically be delusion, right? There, because the human brain is like the ocean. There's waves to it. There's ups. There's downs. There's waves to it. That's how we are wired to be. So because of that, there are waves, but there's always a consistent current. You want to have a consistent current of peace, of contentment, and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, however that looks like in your life is different. I can't tell you what that looks like for your life. I know what that looks like in my life. And
Yeah.
because I know what that looks like in my life, I've now recognized to navigate accordingly. Because I know that there's certain things that I don't, what, because someone told me the other day, and of course I understand it as a compliment. Like, oh, Gia, I can see it for you. You can be as big as Oprah. And I said, thank you, but I don't want that. I don't want that. I want my work to be great. Do I want that type of fame and notoriety? Not really. No, don't want that. Do I want that type of headache? No, don't want that. Do I even want that type of money? No, don't want that. Do I want a little bit more than what I have now? Of course. But I don't want Oprah money. Let someone else have that. All I know is what it would take to be her is not my ministry. It's not my purpose. I
Yeah.
like I know I've been saying the same thing all week, Dave, which is I am seated and rooted in being me. And wherever that may take me, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not striving
I love that.
to to be anybody else or to have a level of fame as others. If my work draws attention, that's great. But I want the attention to be on my work, not
Mm-hmm.
me. There's a And it's very important to recognize that early on because if not, social media will make all of us believe that we all want to be influencers and celebrities. I want my work to influence good in others. That I know for sure. That I know for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it is.
But thank you. Thank you. But I don't want to be known just for the sake of being known.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's why I am fully aware that the current of my life, my personal current, and my personal definition of success is a life where I have a consistent current of peace, joy, and contentment. Now, don't get me
Yep.
wrong. I don't want to sound 100%. Well, there's nothing wrong with sounding, of course, altruistic here, but yes, like I said earlier, it's not what I like. I already plan on it. We can talk about that offline, how things I have planned to change for me personally and financially. Yes, darling, yes. Um, but even those financial goals and plans I have for myself is still aligned with this golden thread of peace, joy, and contentment.
Yeah.
Those three.
Mhm.
Especially because I am fully aware of how fickle humans are. The human emotion is so fickle. So you see that demonstrated on social media with cancel culture, right? One minute you're hot, one minute you're canceled. One minute people love you, one minute you're the devil itself. So you can't define your success based off of other people's perceptions of you. So that's
Mhm.
why I don't, JC says it, don't get high off of your own supply. I don't get high off of people liking my content anymore. I appreciate it, but I choose to take it in as data, as an indication. Okay, did that message resonate? Great. I wonder why. Great. But it's not, I choose to not allow it to feed my ego or feed
Yeah.
any type of definition of what makes me good or great.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, that what I've just shared with you is something I just arrived at maybe a hot 90 days ago.
Mhm.
A hot 90 days ago. And that is because over a period of time, I'm extremely blessed to have beautiful friends and family in my life. And some of them uh, do have a strong presence on social media. And so I've watched in the back. I've watched because I've seen my friends and associates grow from I hate to use the term nobodies, but someone who no one knew about to having large followings and amassing notoriety and financial gain from it, right? And as I've watched them, I've noticed how that has had an effect on their lives, uh, the good that people see, but I've also seen the bad and the challenges that come with it.
Mhm.
And I'm blessed to have very intimate conversations with them and recognize, wow, Gia, do you want that? Do you want that? Are you sure? Are you ready for that? Yeah or no? Okay. Yeah? Okay. Well, if no, okay, then what are we doing next? Yeah? Okay, then what are we doing next? So
Mhm.
I recognized early on watching my peers and recognizing, oh, this is what it's like. Okay, but let's make sure that we devise a strategy so that, because I really am, I devise a strategy so that as great as all this is, what I have working in the background is even better for me.
Yeah.
It's even better. So, as great as all this is, my offline finances, my offline businesses, which I do have, is stronger and greater than anything people will ever see on social media. So just know that if you think this is great, if you think that online Gia is great, offline Gia is lit. And I plan to keep it
Agreed.
that way. One of the books I'm reading right now is really, really good. And I have to admit, I'm surprised at how good it is Will Smith's autobiography. And one of the things he was explaining in his experiences, the universal law of impermanence, understanding that nothing lasts forever. So make it great now. Nothing lasts forever. I am just starting in this world of podcasting and I'm already foreseeing what the next step and the next phase will be for me. And I plan to be in this space for decades, but I'm already looking forward because I
Mhm.
understand that one law, which is true, that universal law of impermanence.
For the next time we chat, I think we should explore how I'm real big about energy,
Mhm,
and I believe that everything is energy.
mhm,
So significance and insignificance are the same energy, right? So
mhm,
when I heard you say the law of impermanence,
mhm.
when you zoom out far enough, you realize how insignificant like us as individuals are.
Totally.
But
Totally.
also from that vantage point, when you zoom in far enough, you realize how important it is to be present now
Yes.
for you. And it's like, it's the same thing. It doesn't change the fact that now is as insignificant as it is in the whole universal scheme of things. It's the most significant thing to you,
Yeah.
for you.
So, Dave, how can the people find you and get all of your good content and all the wonderful things that you have going on for yourself?
Okay. I'm assuming that this name in the video will show up.
Yes, it will. But
Okay. So
for the people listening on the podcast.
got it. At Coach Dave Jones on Instagram. That's the best place to find me. So at CoachDaveJones, Coach Dave Jones. No spaces, no underscores. Hit me up there. You can click, you can shoot me a DM, comment on some content, or if you want to go take it offline, hit the link in bio and text me, and we can have the conversation there.
I like that.
Or you can sign up for a free consultation to figure out we can work together. Or if you want to jump ahead, you can sign up for a strategy consultation and we'll get it popping.
I like
So,
that.
for sure, I appreciate the opportunity to have conversed with you today.
Likewise,
I
Dave.
appreciate the thoughtfulness of your questions,
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate you allowing me to go off on my many tangents.
The best
So,
conversations
I
are the
appreciate
ones
all
where
that.
people go off on tangents. Those are the best. Those are the gems. Those are the
For sure.
gems.
For sure. So I want to say thank you for all those things, and thank you for being you.
Thank
You're phenomenal.
you.
You're phenomenal.
I appreciate that greatly, sir. And for the beautiful watchers, those who are watching on YouTube and any other platform, thank you for watching this podcast. For my beautiful family that is watching and listening to this, wherever you are, thank you so much. And until next time, beautiful people, te amo. Besos. Ciao.